once a week, and usually every Friday. When that update's available, you'll just be prompted to download it. And obviously, you just always want to say yes to that because it'll contain new features or bug fixes and smaller improvements, that sort of thing. And then this window will just highlight some of the newer features that have been released recently. And from this window as well, you can also sign up for different training. If you ever had any new employees or wanted a refresher on anything, you can sign up from right here.
Okay, go ahead.
And StreetEagle itself obviously is made up of two main parts. So you have your control panel that's going to have your list of vehicles, and then you will have obviously your map in the background behind it that has all of your locations and all of your vehicles plotted on it.
Definitely.
In the control panel, sorry, did you have a question?
No, not yet.
Okay. In the control panel itself, you'll see your list of vehicles with a colored circle next to them. And what that circle does is just give you a quick idea of the status of that particular vehicle. So, for example, the green icon would indicate that vehicle is currently in transit. Black would just mean that that vehicle is parked with the ignition turned off. The red icon would mean the vehicle is stopped or idling, so he has the ignition on, he's just not moving anywhere. And the white icon would just indicate the vehicle is overdue for a report. So most of the time that would just be if he was traveling in some place that had poor satellite or cellular reception. A lot of times that could just be something simple like an underground parking garage, or any time where the unit doesn't have a clear view of the sky. And these purple icons would just indicate that that particular vehicle or unit hasn't reported in over 30 days. So if you have a vehicle that's just out of service or is not in use, or if you just have spare tracking kits that are on the shelf and not currently installed in a vehicle. You also have different available in your control panel.
All right.
So you can break your fleet up and customize and categorize your fleet, pretty much however you want it. If you had different types of vehicles like you guys have here, if you had different people that were responsible for different things, you can customize this and really break it down however you would want to. And you also have a locations tab that'll show you all of your locations that exist in StreetEagle. And just like with the vehicles, if you needed to or if you wanted to, you can categorize your locations and break those down into different groups as well.
You have any question?
On the
No, not yet.
Okay. On the top of your control panel, you have three drop-down menus. So the Maps drop-down, Zoom to Extents, is just going to zoom the map out far enough for you to see all of your locations that you have entered in StreetEagle and all of your vehicles all in one map view. So you can see you guys have stuff spread out pretty far, so it zooms out to let you see everything in one view. The Show or Hide Layers options just refers to your icons that are actually plotted on the map there. So if you had a lot of clutter in one area, if you needed to, get into the map to do some work in the map, you could always just come in here and hide any of those icons, just so that way it'll sort of clear things up for you and, let you see what you were trying to work out in the map there. And then to show those again, you would just come in and select the same option. Then the bottom half of the menu just lets you choose what map type you want to work in. Bing and Google Maps, you're really not going to notice a huge difference functionality-wise between the two of them. It really just boils down to personal preference. Some people like to work in Bing, some people like to work in Google, so it's really up to you. And if you did have Microsoft Map Point installed on your machine, we support that as well. The Help drop-down will let you do a couple different things, like report an issue or get online help to fill out a form for support on our website. Obviously, if you ever had any issues, you could always just contact me or anyone in our support department, and we'd be able to help you out. But if it was something smaller, or you didn't have too much time at the moment but didn't want to forget about it, you could always just fill out the form on our website. And that's not limited to just problems or errors that you notice, but if you ever have any suggestions on features that you think would be helpful to you, or how you want something, if you want to change it a little bit, feel free to leave that feedback in there. Because that is one of the reasons that we update the software as often as we do, is based on different feedback that we get from customers and improvements and additions we make based on those. take another look at that, or sign up for training or anything, you could always just pop that out under the What's New folder. Access log files would really only just be used for troubleshooting purposes. If there was something going on in your machine that we need a little bit more visibility into, we'd be able to look at the log files from here. And then the video manual option, we'll just play shorter tutorial videos, pretty much most of the stuff that I'll be going over today. But if you ever had a quick question or needed a refresher on how to do or use a certain feature, you could just come in here and play any one of these videos. They usually only last about 60 seconds long, so I'll just give you a quick overview for whatever topic you select. And then the release notes option would just show you our release notes. So if you ever had a question about any one of our updates and wanted to see exactly what was contained in the different updates, you could always just view the release notes from here. Out would just tell you what version and build of StreetEagle you're running. So right now we're on version 8 build 161. So if you ever needed to know if you had the most recent update, you could view what version in there. And then lastly, the file drop-down menu obviously is just going to be where you can come to access most of the different features and functionality in StreetEagle. And you'll see as I go through here, there's like 2 or 3 different ways to get to a lot of the different features. So again, just boils down to how you'd like to use it and what you're comfortable with. And clicking on any particular vehicle will go ahead and center that vehicle on the map for you. As well as pop out a little info balloon, so it'll let you know the direction and speed the vehicle's traveling in, give you an approximate address and everything like that. It'll also tell you just how long it's been in that current state. So if it was parked, it would just tell you approximately how long it's been in that state. And you can see here how long this particular vehicle has been in transit. It's been about 21 minutes that he's been driving. At the bottom of the control panel, you have some of your more common features that you'd be using. You can get to those also by just right-clicking on a vehicle in the control panel, or right-clicking on a vehicle itself on the actual map. You can just right-click the icon, and you'd have all of those same options available to you. So one of the more common tools would just be to plot the history for the vehicle on the map. Basically view the breadcrumb trail for it. So it'll pop out an additional window, and you just select what time frame you want to view the history for. So we have some other more common values that get used just for today, yesterday, or the past 7 days of the week. But at the bottom you do have a custom option, so you would be able to select that and then narrow down or broaden your date range or time frame to whatever it is that you wanted to look at the history for. And once you have that set, you would just be able to use the plot history button, and that'll actually go ahead and plot the history of that vehicle on the map for you. And just like in the maps drop-down menu, you have a zoom to extents button, and that'll zoom the map out just far enough for you to see all of that vehicle's activity in one map view. So if you just wanted a quick overview of his route, this will zoom out so you can see everything without having to scroll around or pan or zoom yourself. And then each one of these icons here would just indicate every time the vehicle reported. So you could click on any icon if you wanted to. It'll give you the same information as if you were looking at a live vehicle. It'll tell you if it was in transit, the direction and speed, and so on. And you do have navigation arrows at the bottom of the history window. So if you needed to go through literally step by step and look at all of that vehicle's activity and what he was up to, you can go through literally each report individually, or you do have double arrows that'll skip through 10 steps at a time. So if you just wanted a quick overview of his route without having to take up too much of your own time, you can jump through 10 at a time here and just get a quick idea of how he was driving. And I will also mention too, up in the top right corner next to the X here, you'll see a blue question mark in a lot of our different windows. And all that'll do is launch that tutorial video that I mentioned earlier. It'll play the one specific to that window that you're looking at. So if you needed a quick reminder, for example, on how to use the history, you would just be able to click on that and it'll play that history video for you. And then closing that history window will just restore you to the live map view. color of the icon next to the vehicle to blue, just to let you know that that vehicle currently is in follow mode. And all that's going to do is keep track of that vehicle for you. So anytime it moves or updates and changes its position, you can see it's recentered on the map for you. So that way, if you had a new driver or someone that you wanted to keep a close eye on, you could just put him in follow mode, and that way it'll just keep track of him automatically for you. And then to get out of that mode, again, you would just click that same button. In this case, it says Stop Following Now.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Is there any way to follow more than one vehicle?
No, it is just designed for one vehicle at a time. Just because if they got two spread out, it's designed to keep that one vehicle centered on your map.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And the ping option is just so you could get an immediate update for the vehicle. So, obviously it'll update every minute or so while it's actually in transit. But if you did need a more recent report or, wanted to find out exactly where he was at that given time, you could always just ping it, and that'll send a signal to the tracking unit and force it to report immediately. The job and message button are all about your driver communication, so they'd be able to, how you communicate and interact with the Garmin in the vehicle. So I'll go over those a little bit more in depth in a little bit here. Then the edit button is going to open up the same window as if you were to go into the file menu for your vehicles manager. And at the top of this window, you have your different groups that you created, so you can see, just sort of help you narrow down or filter out what vehicles you want to actually take a look at. And this is just where you could come if you needed to edit any of the vehicle settings, so you can, change the vehicle name and how it's displayed in StreetEagle. You can enter in the VIN number or a unique ID number, whatever is relevant to you. And this is also a place where you would be able to enter the vehicle's odometer reading. So that way, as mileage is tracked and accumulated in StreetEagle, it's going to, match what the actual odometer reading is in the vehicle. And in here is where you would also be able to change the icon for the vehicle if you needed to, and just change how it's displayed on the map. Stuff like the additional information, it's just a read-only field with some troubleshooting information. Again, it's something you typically won't have to worry about. Same thing with the sensor settings would just be if you had any external sensors attached to the tracking unit, like a PTO or a sub pump or anything. Again, something I don't think you guys have to worry about too much. And then your Garmin settings, you just have the option here to control the power of the Garmin with the ignition of your vehicle. So that way, when the vehicle is turned on, the Garmin's turned on. When the vehicle is shut off, it'll power off the Garmin automatically. And then your checkbox below that would just apply those Garmin settings to all your different vehicles that are in that selected group. So that way you wouldn't have to go in and change each one of those individually. And you can also see at the bottom of this window here, there's a button that says Set Icons. You can also get to that, again, from the File menu, and it's, again, called Set Icons. And this is where you would just be able to change the icons for an entire list of either vehicles or locations. So you can use a tab at the top to choose between your vehicles or locations. And you would just be able to select, any number of different icons or different vehicles, and then change the icons. So it'll change the icons, for all of those selected all at once. So again, it's something that you wouldn't have to go in and change each one of those individually one at a time. The top option here in the file menu just lets you set some different preferences for your specific workstation. So for example, this option to keep StreetEagle on top, that just refers to the control panel here. So you can see there are sometimes when I click on other things, that control panel goes back behind the map. Or if you had different windows that you pulled up, like your email or anything, it'll cover up the control panel. The option to keep StreetEagle on top would just make this control panel stay on top of whatever window you're working in. So if you needed constant and quick access to StreetEagle, it wouldn't get buried behind any other applications. If you did want to use that option, but obviously didn't want it getting in the way too much, you can actually double-click anywhere above these drop-down menus, and it'll just roll it up into this little box here. So that way, if you wanted to keep it on top of your screen, you can just stick it up in the corner, so it's not going to interfere with whatever it is you're working on. And then double-clicking up again will just go ahead and expand it for you, so you can have pretty easy, quick access to it. Then obviously in here too, you'd be able to customize, your time zone that you're in if you need to change that for whatever reason. Switch to a 24-hour format rather than your standard 12-hour. You can also specify when your quarter begins. It's because there are certain reports that you are able to generate in StreetEagle, and with those reports, you can run those on any time frame that you want, but you can also run those based on quarters. So you could look at, last quarter's activity or this quarter's or anything like that. And since not everyone's quarter starts on the first of the year, if you needed to change that, you'd be able to do it in this window. And then the bottom half obviously just lets you filter between miles or kilometers, however you would want different information displayed for you. The startup option just lets you choose which groups you would want displayed by default whenever you look at and open StreetEagle. So all these different groups in the control panel that I mentioned earlier, if you were only interested in one or two of those groups, you could just go ahead and only select maybe one or two groups to actually be displayed by default. Then the bottom half here just lets you choose, again, what map type you want to launch by default, whether it's Bing or Google. And then in your display list, you can choose whether you want the vehicle name or a driver name to be displayed if you have drivers assigned to vehicles. The notifications option just lets you get pretty much on-screen notifications or immediate feedback whenever certain types of activities take place. In the top right corner, you have the option to choose between a pop-up or a notification. Your notification is like your standard system tray notification. You might have seen them pop up a couple times in here already, but it's just so anything that you have selected to be notified about, it'll just display down in the bottom right corner, like when you get a new email or something, and just fade away after a few seconds. Whereas the pop-up option would actually give you, the pop-up in the center of your screen. And then you just have all of these checkboxes here to choose what type of information you would like to be notified about. So you can, select any time a vehicle changes its state, so when he starts or stops or he's in transit or anything. Same thing with Garmin information. If you want to be notified when you receive new messages from your drivers, or if they respond to your messages, or if they change their status. And you can also get on-screen notifications for any of the different alerts that you create in StreetEagle. So I'll go over the alerts in a little bit here, but basically when they are set up, they're designed to either be delivered via email or via text message, or both, to any number of different people. But in addition to that email or text message, you can also get the on-screen notification whenever an alert is triggered. The export tab at the bottom is just a place where you could come to save our different templates. So when you are doing things like either building a route to send to a Garmin or entering locations in the StreetEagle, you have several different ways you can go about that. And one of those ways would be to actually import it using an Excel spreadsheet. And the first step you would need to do that would just be to actually save our template that you would need to fill out and then use that to import. So this is just one place you could come to actually save our different templates. And there are a couple different places you'd be able to do this also. And speaking of the locations, also in the file menu is your geofence and locations manager. So this is where it will give you a list of all the different locations or geofences you have created in StreetEagle. And then this is obviously a place where you could also come if you needed to add or create a new location. And again, there are several different ways you can go about this. You can literally just right-click anywhere on the map and say add a location here. You can use the add button to go ahead and fill this out by hand and just type in, the street address. If you had the latitude and longitude, you can use the checkbox and enter in the lats and longs and leave the rest of the location stuff blank. Or there's a button towards the top of the form that says add using mapping tools. And all this will do is just ask you to, give your location a name, and then you can use this draw button, and it's going to plot this big green circle on the map for you, and you can use the center dot to sort of move this around and place it wherever you want to, and you can use the dots on the sides to sort of resize this. And you can zoom in the map or zoom out while you're doing this, so you can really get as specific or as precise as you would want to. And then once you're finished, you'd be able to click the done button, and that'll just go ahead and automatically fill out the information for whatever area you just entered. Then in the middle of the form here, you have the option to decide whether you're entering this place as a location or as a geofence or both. And the difference is really a geofence is mainly used for alert purposes. So you can set it up so you receive an alert when a driver enters or exits a specific area. And the location are going to be all those different places that actually have the icons that appear on the map for you, so you'd be able to see them on the map and obviously identify when a vehicle is close to that area. And they would also show up in different reports that you generate. So a lot of the reports that you run for the vehicles would have the location information for it, but rather than just having a generic or numbered street address, it would actually just tell you the name of the location that you entered if it was actually at one of those spots. Then towards the bottom of the form, you can identify what type of location it is, again, just to help you identify and categorize these a little bit easier. And you would also be able to decide what icon you want that location to appear with on the map.
Chris.
Yes, sir.
That's Daniel. Before we go to the next topic, I got a question. Do we have a way to put the two windows together so you can keep them and control them? Because we work like a different windows, and every time we need to go through like a StreetEagle or go back for our spreadsheet at work, we need to remember to put a small each one. Or do you have a way to put them on the left or on the top or in place to make them together?
You mean to basically dock the control panel on the side of your screen or anything?
Exactly, like to make them like glue them all the time, so they work as one.
Right now, there's no way to do that. That's something we actually have been looking into, though.
Okay.
One thing you can do is you can sort of resize the map and make this, whatever size that you want.
Okay.
Some people would just sort of, resize their map a little bit. So that way they would have the control panel up and it's not on top of the map or not getting in the way of anything.
Okay.
Or they would just make it so the map doesn't take up the full screen.
Okay, good.
Okay, and then your last way that you'd be able to enter in locations, like I mentioned earlier, you can import those from an Excel spreadsheet. There's an option, again, in the File menu to import location data. And if you haven't done it already, this is another place where you'd be able to save our template, to just be able to save it, to your desktop or My Documents or wherever it is that you would want to put that. And I'll actually pull that up real quick. And it's a very basic, very straightforward spreadsheet. So obviously you would just follow your column headers here. You would just need to, list the names for any of your different locations, the address for them. The only thing to keep in mind here is if you did have the latitude and longitude for different locations, you can just fill out these fields and leave the rest of the location stuff empty. And then as you scroll to the right here, you have a bunch of optional information that you don't have to fill out, but you can if you would like to. So you could specify the radius and how close you would need a vehicle to be before it's identified or associated with that location. Specify the location type. Assign it to a group automatically, assign it an icon ID that you want it to import with, and so on. And once you have this all filled out and saved, obviously you would come back into StreetEagle under that import location data, and then you'd be able to just click Browse and go ahead and locate wherever you saved that file and import it. And once that process is done, it'll give you a little status message and say, 20 out of 20 locations imported successfully, or it could say 15 out of 20 imported and 5 failed. And if that was ever the case, you would actually be able to open up your spreadsheet again. And then this last column here that says import status would automatically be filled out for you, and it would either say success, success, success next to each record, or it'll say failed duplicate address, or whatever it is that caused that particular record to not import. And going back into the file menu once again, one of the other tools you have in here would be your groups manager. And this is where those groups that I've mentioned a couple times earlier, this is where you'd be able to create any different groups. You have a drop down up top that'll give you all the existing groups. So if you ever needed to edit a group and either add or remove a vehicle from it, you can do that in this window. You can delete a group entirely, and obviously you would be able to create a new group again just using the add button and then selecting what vehicles or what locations you would want associated to that particular group.
Cool. Só fazer os grupos aí.
And one other window that is useful in the file menu here is your contacts manager. And the contacts are important for a couple different things. First of all, any of the different alerts that you set up, like I said, they are designed to be delivered either via email or via text message. So anyone you would want to be able to receive different alerts would have to be entered in this contacts manager.
Daniel.
And then the other useful part for the contacts are just deciding who can receive auto-scheduled reports. So basically you have obviously a large list of reports that you'd be able to create in StreetEagle, and if you have reports like most people do that you run on a regular basis, whether it's every day or weekly, monthly, or quarterly, or anything like that, you can actually create it so those reports are generated automatically and just emailed to you on whatever schedule that you set. And anyone that you'd want to be able to receive any of those different reports, again, would just have to be entered in this contact manager here. And speaking of the reports, I'll go ahead and pull up our reports module now. Again, you can get to that either in the file menu under modules, or you can just use this quick button on the right-hand side of the control panel. So if you just hover the mouse over any of these for a second or two, it'll just let you know which window you're about to open up. And with the reports, you'll have a drop-down menu at the top and let you select, obviously which type of report you want to generate. As you can see, it's a pretty lengthy list that we have in here. This is something that's constantly changing and evolving, also based on, again, feedback that we get from, you guys, and what type of information you want to see and how it's going to be helpful to you, so this list is constantly growing. So chances are, if there's a specific type of report or certain information that you're looking for, there is a report that exists already in here that'll show you that.
Sorry, Chris.
Yes?
This is Daniel. I work like with this. It's pretty longer than the event apartment. Can you show them the data export? They get sound on the vans and just show quickly the data export. That's pretty much what we need. The client call and tell, well, you didn't show up in the airport yesterday at 10 p.m. What was the event that was there? They received a report from Rosanna last night. What was the event so they can show you?
Which one? Nine?
Okay, so I think I know what you're asking for here. One of the more common reports is something like the complete activity. That'll show you pretty much that vehicle's history and all of its activity for whatever time frame you're looking at. You could also, if you go down, there is a stop park report or a stop idling report, and those will just show you all of that vehicle's stops. So if we clicked on the stop park report, you can just set this stop threshold down towards the bottom of the window and just say, I want to see every time it stopped for 5 minutes or longer, or 10 minutes or longer, or whatever it is that you set this at, and it'll just show all of its stops. And that's as opposed to, like I said, with something like the complete activity report, that'll show you obviously all of his stops, but also the rest of his activity as well. So you would just be able to come in and select which vehicle or vehicles you wanted to create the report for. So if it's something you wanted to generate across the board for the entire fleet, you can select everyone, or you can just select one or two vehicles by either double-clicking or just using the arrows here. Then again, you'd just be selecting a time frame, just like the history window, for what range you want to view the report for. So we have some preset values in here again, whether it's just for today, yesterday, weekly, monthly, or quarterly. But you do also have a custom option available if you needed to specify a certain date range or again, a time frame that you actually wanted to take a look at. And once you decide what vehicle and have all of your different settings for the report, obviously you would just be able to use the Create Report button. And then that'll just take a moment to generate here. And you can resize your report viewer pretty much however you'd want to. I'll make this one full screen. And all the reports are going to be generated pretty much the exact same way, so you'll just have the name of the report at the top, what vehicle you're looking at, what the different parameters are that you set. So in this case, anytime he was traveling above 65 miles an hour, it's going to show up on the report as a speeding event. And anytime he was stopped or idling longer than 8 minutes, it's going to show up on the report as an idling event. And then in the case of complete activity, like I said, it'll pretty much show you all of his, all of his activity for whatever time frame you're looking at. So you can see what time he started his day. We can see when he was in transit. You can see we have a speeding event here. And it'll just tell you his maximum speed during that time as well as his average speed. And on the right-hand side, you have all of your location information. And like I said, this is where if he was actually at a friendly location that you had created in StreetEagle, it would just give you the name of that location here as opposed to the numbered address. But if you ever did have a question about any one of these locations, you can actually click on any one of those. And all that's going to do is pull up your internet browser with a pin in that specific location. Just so if you needed to get a visual idea of where he was when a certain activity took place, instead of having to go back into StreetEagle and finding that yourself, you would just be able to click it and it'll just pull up a map and just let you know exactly where he was when that took place. And at the top of you have your path bar. And this will let you jump through, view the different pages for the report. Last page, for a lot of the different reports, will have some summary information. So in the case of complete activity, it'll just let you know, how much time he was in transit, how much time he was speeding, and how much time he spent stopped or idling. And same thing with the mileage traveled. It'll just let you know how many miles were traveled under the speed limit and how many miles were above whatever threshold that you set. And then also from the top of this window, you'd be able to save any of these reports in whatever file type that you would want. So if just a PDF or a read-only file is fine, you can get it that way. But if you ever needed to sort or filter the data any further or use it for anything else, you could get it in something like an Excel spreadsheet or a text file or anything also. And if you needed to, you would also be able to just print directly from this screen.
Mr. Chris?
Yes?
We have a situation last night here. Do you have a way to pull over like a data report for like van number 09?
09.
From 10 at night yesterday until 1 a.m. this for today?
So, okay, what was the vehicle?
It's a van number 9. Orlando. Van
Orlando.
9 Orlando.
Okay, and what type of report did we want to look at?
It would be custom, right? From 10 p.m. last night.
Data export. It's a report. Huh? The report, data export. The report is give me, yes,
Gross.
but minute by minute.
Yeah, and that's what the data export is going to show is literally all of the tracking data that was available.
Yeah.
Right.
So we wanted to look at, you said from yesterday at what time?
10 p.m.
10 p.m.
Until 1 a.m. this morning?
1 a.m. this morning. Simulação.
Data exportável. Instalacional. Mas a gente nunca bota em data export.
Eu boto no
Curso, não sei se lá.
Essa aí fica melhor, olha lá. Minuto.
And yeah, the data export report, like I said, is literally just going to dump out every single time that tracking unit reported. So this will be all of the data that was
Era 30 segundos.
came back tracking unit for that particular time.
Okay, what time did the flight arrive? 11?
11.
Okay, we have 11, around 11 p.m. The bus should be like nearby the airport, so like it's on beach line, expressway near the trade port.
Yeah, he parked on Airport Boulevard
Yeah, 11.
at 10:59:59. So pretty much exactly at 11 o'clock.
And he took off at 12:36, right?
Yes, sir. And that's when he started again.
Okay, great. Yeah, the client told that the van never show up, that was not there, so we're clear on the situation.
About an hour and a half.
Yeah. Oh, great. That's what pretty much I was trying to show them.
Great.
Sim, subiu.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, you're welcome.
Do you have a way to click where they were parked, please? On the address, to show on the map?
Sure.
Should be the airport.
Check. And geofencing. Asking.
And this is where he was parked at exactly.
No dispatch.
Oi, oi.
Como?
Okay, the van was there, inside the terminal.
Yeah.
Because this is like inside the terminal. Okay, do you
Eu
have...
quero ver todas as vans aí.
Uh,
Sem ter que dar clique em cima delas.
okay, they got a question here as well. They are trying to get all the vehicles in the same time without need to click it in. I thought they just put on dispatch view, right?
To view all the vehicles at the same time?
Yeah, you need to put on dispatch view, I believe.
I like the picture.
Yeah, you have a couple different ways that you can monitor all the vehicles at once.
Aqui, quero ver. Aqui.
So your dispatch view map is in the dispatch module here, and then you'd be able to just click on the top tab that says dispatch view map.
Deixar aberto na televisão.
É isso que eu preciso deixar aberto ali.
Exato, é isso. Outra coisa. Não tem como sobrar não? Eu tô com a televisão lá no teu computador. Já fiz 6 vezes.
And this is pretty much mainly used for, obviously the dispatching portion of it. So, you'd be able to see the status of different jobs, what they're all up to. You can take a look vehicle by vehicle and see where everyone is.
Veículo.
And you can show as well like
The
groups,
address
right?
and data times speak, some parking status.
You can show groups.
A gente seleciona então os veículos ali.
Exato.
Só
Olha.
deixa aí também, porque eu não quero ver um veículo de Nova York, que não me interessa.
Exato. Because you want to close up.
Ah.
Do you have a way to filter by group or need to show like a vehicle by vehicle?
Not in this view. It would just be all of the vehicles all at once here. But
Okay.
one other option, which doesn't show it on a map, but you can actually come in and view our status monitor. And in this screen here, at the top, you would be able to filter group by group.
Vans, please.
If you just wanted to look at, vans or anything like that.
Great.
And then once this populates, it'll actually, just give you the status and duration,
Where is this
Não me
vehicle?
dá um
Right.
mapa.
see what they're all up to,
Não me dá um mapa.
Asking.
look at everyone. And obviously, if you didn't want to, you don't have to view this in full screen, so you can sort of, adjust the size of this window however you would want. And then here you'd be able to see, the status of each vehicle, how long they've been in that state, so you can see how long they were in transit for, how long they were stopped or idling, and where each vehicle is. If you right-click on the taskbar at the top, you can actually filter and decide what information you want displayed and what information you would want to hide. You can sort by any of these columns. You can use the filter option to only show certain activity or only show vehicles at certain locations or whatever it is. once you go through and actually, customize this, if you spend a few minutes on it and get it, how you would want it displayed, there's actually a save view button at the bottom corner of this, and just that way it'll save however you go ahead and have this set up, and then you would have your custom views option up in the top of the form here, so you'd be able to see and just choose some of your different views. And by default, we just have a normal view that'll show pretty much everything, but then we also have a dispatch view that'll just show you, pretty much all of like Garmin-related activity. So it'll let you know what their status has been set at, if they're assigned to a current job, what the job status is, and everything, and that would go along with the Garmin dispatch. And I just want to go back into the reports module real quick, just because if you did want to, set up or schedule different reports that are just emailed to you automatically, you would just go about setting it up the same exact way you would normally be creating a report. So you would just select, the report type, your vehicles, your time frame, whatever it is. But then instead of hitting the create report button, there's a checkbox here to memorize your report, and then you would just have to give it a name, so whatever it is that's going to help you identify that particular report, and then you can just use the save report button. And if you wanted to, you can stop there. So there's a drop-down menu towards the bottom that'll just give you a list of all the different reports that you have saved, and then clicking on that report will go ahead and pull up, exactly what it was that you had auto-scheduled, and you would just be able to create the report from here. But if you wanted to take that a step further and actually auto-schedule it, you would just use this auto-schedule report button. And again, you'll have a drop-down that'll list all of your saved reports, so you can decide which one you want to schedule. You can choose what file type you want it sent as, so if a PDF is fine, or again, if you need to sort or filter the data at all, you can get it in an Excel spreadsheet or a text file. And then contacts, this is where you would have everyone listed that you have entered in your contacts manager, and you would just be able to come in and select the checkboxes for anyone, that you want to receive this report. Then your next step here would just be to set the schedule and how often you want the report actually created and sent to you. So if you wanted something, every single day, you can hit daily, or maybe you just want it on Mondays or Monday through Friday, you can just hit the check boxes here, and also you would just be able to do first day of the month or the first day of your quarter. And then the scheduled time, for the most part, you shouldn't have to change. That's just going to be randomized for an early morning hour, so by the time you get in and start your day, that report's already created and sitting in your inbox for you. But obviously, if you did want to specify what time it was actually created and sent, you could customize this time as well. And then below that button is where you can manage your different auto-scheduled reports. So any reports you had auto-scheduled, you would be able to come in here and either change or edit them at all, so you can change who they're sent to, you can change how often it's sent, or what file type it's sent as, or anything like that. And then you would also have a disable option, so if you had a report that you didn't want to receive for a little while, you can just turn it off, and then that way, instead of having to recreate it all over again, you can just come back in this window and re-enable it. And one thing I forgot to mention with the reports too, you can also run reports based on drivers. So with this tab at the top here, rather than running reports based on vehicle activity, if you were going to be using driver assignment, you would actually be able to create and run reports based on a driver's activity instead of just the vehicle itself. So that way if he's in a different vehicle throughout the week or anything like that, it wouldn't really matter. It'll still generate the report based on all of his activity. And to create or manage any different drivers, in the file menu you have your driver manager. And this is where you can create any different drivers that you would want to find using StreetEagle.
Communication between driver and
Add button, fill out, their first and last name. Wanted the driver to be able to log in himself and sort of assign himself to a vehicle if it had a Garmin in it. Create his driver ID here. And then that way, when he gets in the vehicle and enters in whatever driver ID you put, it's going to automatically log him in and assign him to that particular vehicle. And then also, if you wanted to use driver assignment but didn't have a Garmin in all the vehicles, we do support iButton technology, which is basically just a little key fob that he would have like on his keychain and a sensor in the vehicle that he would just have to touch with it, and that'll log him in and assign him to that vehicle. And then also, if you were using our utility app, for like tablet-based or smartphone dispatching, you'd be able to create his username in here as well. Now, if you wanted to use driver assignment, but instead of having your drivers log in using the Garmin, there's also an assignment tab up here. And this is where you would just be able to come in and select whichever vehicle you wanted to assign a driver to. Use the assign button, and that'll go ahead and let you select which driver you want to assign to that particular vehicle. Just so that way, like I said, as you're going through and either running different reports or monitoring driver behavior, you would actually be able to do that on a driver level rather than just vehicle by vehicle if you have different drivers that are constantly switching out. And the driver behavior settings can actually be assigned to different vehicles in the Vehicles Manager. So if we click Edit here, instead of looking at the vehicle properties, there's actually a button that says Parameters. And this will let you take a look at the different driver behavior profiles. And what the driver behavior does,
coordination, acceleration,
an accelerometer in the unit, it can actually tell and send alerts if a driver was braking too hard, accelerating too quickly, or taking corners too hard, or anything like that. And then obviously, since not every vehicle is going to be monitored the same way, like you might want to measure something like a bus a little bit differently than something like a sedan or a van. So you can use this Manage Profiles button. And you can see right now the only thing we have in here is the default profile. But to create a new profile, you would just use the Add button and give it whatever name you would want to. So if you just want to do this for buses, then you'd be able to use these slider bars here to determine how sensitive and how closely you would want to monitor each one of these activities, and how sensitive you would want that reporting and alerting to be. And then once you save your different profiles, you can use the assignment tab, and you'd be able to come in and choose which profile you wanted to, and then decide which vehicles you want assigned to that particular driver behavior profile. And then so that would be reflected in a number of different reports that you can generate based on driver behavior. And again, you can do it on a vehicle or on a driver level. And then you also have several alerts that you'd be able to set up based on driver behavior as well. So this is the alerts module that we have here. And you see all these different tabs at the top would all be different types of alerts that you can generate or set up to monitor some different driver vehicle activity. And you'll have a display that'll give you a list of the different alerts of that particular type that you have set up for. You can click on that individual alert, and it'll just give you some brief summary information based on what the different settings are for that particular alert. And to create a new alert, they're all done the exact same way. You would just select whatever tab you wanted to create the alert for, and then just use the Add button. And the bottom half of the window will just walk you through step by step. So the first thing to do would just be to give it a name, and then enter in your settings for the alert. So in the case of driver behavior, you can actually measure, and we monitor the braking and acceleration based on 3 different levels. So you have hard, harsh, and severe listed here. So it'll just tell you the basically severity of the event that took place. So if you only want to receive alerts for the severe events, you would just hit those check boxes. You can also be alerted for hard cornering. And with a lot of the different alerts, you'll have check boxes here to either include the address in the alert, so you know exactly where the driver was when that specific alert was triggered. And then you also have the option to notify the driver via his Garmin if you do have a Garmin in that vehicle. And then it'll also, in addition to sending you the alert, it'll send the driver a message, and his Garmin will make a chime and just let him know that he's doing something he probably shouldn't be doing.
Good.
Then your next step would just be to decide what vehicle or vehicles you want to apply the alert to. So if it's something you want set across the board for everyone, you can just select all your vehicles. And then your last step would just be to decide what contact the alert is going to be sent to. So again, you can choose either via email or via text message, and you would just hit the appropriate check boxes here.
Já tá.
Já está.
Não nas vans.
Eu não tenho isso.
Tem nem comprar GPS.
Aham. Nós temos ônibus já?
3 ônibus. Dos 23.
Okay. So the next button below the alerts module would be your maintenance module. And this is where you'd be able to keep track and monitor different maintenance items for the fleet. So this list box here would just give you obviously a list of all your vehicles, and it'll just give you a status icon just to let you know. If we look into settings, it'll tell you which icon represents what. So white would just mean he doesn't have any items assigned to that vehicle. Green means it has items assigned, but none of them are currently due. Then the red icon obviously indicates items that are past due, and it'll have a yellow icon as he's within a certain warning threshold, and you can adjust those warnings here. So if he's within so many miles or a date based on how you have that maintenance item set up. And to create any different pieces of maintenance for the vehicles, you would just go into the Maintenance Items tab and use the Create New Item button. Identify whether you're creating, something like an oil change. And then you would just decide, which vehicle or vehicles you want this maintenance item to be assigned to. And then on the right-hand side, you can just choose how you want to monitor that. So you can choose, if you want it based on mileage, engine operating time, a specific duration, like every so many months, or just a hard date you can set as well. So if it's something like you wanted oil changes for everyone every 5,000 miles, you would just select that and then go ahead and save it. And then that information would be reflected in this screen here. And then clicking on a vehicle itself obviously would just give you summary information for it. So it would let you know how many items are assigned to it and how many are currently due. But then in the bottom corner, you also have a button that says Add Service. So obviously, not every piece of maintenance is something that's regularly scheduled. If somebody had to get the tire replaced or, he had a cracked windshield that had to be replaced, if you wanted to track all of those costs as well, you would just be able to come in and select whichever vehicle had the work done and use the Add Service button. And that'll just let you fill out this form. Obviously, give it a name, so whatever work was performed, whether it was a tire replacement or anything. You can specify a technician or a work order number if you wanted to, how much the piece of service costs, and then you can identify whether it was done, today as you're entering this or a specific date in the past, and then you'd also be able to enter in any relevant notes here also. And then for your regularly scheduled maintenance, so if someone did have his oil changed, you would just be able to go in and select, whatever maintenance was performed and use the Service Complete button. It'll ask you if you want to enter in any extra information. That'll be the same form that we just had up, so you'd be able to enter in, the service cost and that sort of thing for it. And then in this window also, once you do mark that service as complete, it'll automatically reset based on whatever values you created. So if it's, an oil change that you had set up for every 5,000 miles. Once you mark that as complete, it'll automatically start tracking for, another 5,000 miles from now. And then this is just another place too where you could come if you wanted to enter in or adjust any of the vehicle odometer readings. You would just be able to come in and edit that in here. And then there's different reports that you can create and run based on vehicle maintenance. So if you wanted to look at the maintenance history or the maintenance cost or any upcoming maintenance, you can do that. And you would also be able to set different alerts to send an email or a text message when one of those pieces of maintenance comes due. And then you would also have a maintenance history tab here. So this would just give you a list of all the maintenance that was performed, and it'll display any of the information that you had entered for it. So any notes and the service cost and so on. And the last window that we'll open up is the dispatch module. And this would be all about, communicating with your drivers or your vehicles with the Garmin's if they had those installed, or if you were using, tablets or smartphones to communicate with your drivers, you can do that from here also. So again, you have your different groups that you'd be able to choose from. And next to each vehicle, you would just have a status box here. And it'll just let you know if a Garmin's connected in that vehicle for the time being, or if it is, in this case, none of them are set up. But you'd be able to monitor any different communications, so any messages to or from your drivers, the different jobs that you have sent to them, as well as the status of that job. And then you can also look at the status history that your drivers are setting, so whether that's, in transit, on site, clock in, clock out, whatever the driver status is that they set in the Garmin, you can view those from this window also. And then the send message and send job button, those would open up the same windows as if we were to use the buttons at the bottom of your main control panel. So send message obviously is if you just wanted to get a message across to your drivers. And again, you can do that based on a vehicle level or based on a driver level. And you would just be able to go in and select, which vehicle that you wanted to send the message to. You can select everyone if you wanted to get it across to the entire fleet or everyone that had Garmin's. And right now, Garmin has a 200-character limit that you can send at one time. So we just have a little counter at the top here that'll let you know how much space you have remaining. And then you can also set or specify a certain response type that you would want to get back from your drivers. So if you just wanted a simple okay, like an acknowledgement that they read and understood your message, maybe a yes or a no, or you can choose from a number of different canned responses here. And so anything you hit with this checkbox would appear as options for your driver to reply to your message with. And any of these options here, basically when your driver receives a message, he would just be able to click a button and then select his response. That way he can get a message back to you without having to, type anything out on like an actual keypad on the Garmin. And then also at the top here you have a tab for text message.
Text message.
And this is where you have a list of all those people you have entered in your contacts manager. They're all available in here. You can actually send someone a text message or an email directly from StreetEagle. And you would just type out your subject and whatever message you wanted to send, and go ahead and send that off to your contacts. And then the job button. This is where you would come if you just wanted to send a single job or a single stop to any one of your drivers. So obviously you could just fill out this form from scratch, give the job a name, enter in, the address and everything like that for it. You can also just select from any of your existing locations. So if you needed to send him to a specific location you already had saved in StreetEagle, you would just be able to select it. If go ahead and select which vehicle you wanted to send it to, and send that off to that driver. Then next to the mailbox tab at the top, you have your route manager. And this is where you can come, as opposed to sending a driver, one stop at a time or just one individual stop, you can send him an entire route, so an entire list of stops that he would need to be going on for the day or whatever it is. And just like with your locations, you can import any routes from an Excel spreadsheet. So you would just need to save our route template, and then you can go ahead and fill out the spreadsheet and import a number of different routes from one Excel spreadsheet. But you would have all of your existing routes in this drop-down menu here. If you needed to just create a new route from scratch, you can just use the Add button. Give it whatever name you want that's going to help you identify it. And then you can just add any of your different stops individually. So this is the same form that we use to, just send a job to your driver, except obviously now it's not going to be sending this stop, it's just going to be saving it as part of your route. So you'd be able to come in and have, however many stops that you wanted for that particular driver for the day, and go ahead and build his route. You have different arrows on the right-hand side here. These red arrows will let you reorder your stops. So if you need to change the order for whichever way you wanted him to complete the route, you can adjust that in here as well. And then you would just be able to, again, select what vehicle you want this route sent to, and then you could go ahead and send the route if you wanted to. Or if you have maybe all of tomorrow's jobs or all of tomorrow's stops set up, you can actually schedule this to be delivered on a specific date. So whenever you want this route to be delivered to that driver, just set that date and then click the send button, and it'll just go ahead and schedule that to be delivered at that specific time. And then there's a view schedule button here that would just let you view all the different routes that you have scheduled, and it'll let you know, what vehicle they're going to and what stops they're a part of and things like that. But for the most part, those are all the different highlights and general use program. Did anybody have any questions, or is there anything else you wanted to see explained a little bit more thoroughly, or anything like that?
No, thank you, Chris.
All right. Well then, thank you guys for joining me today. And if you have any questions,